of delivering its mandate?
Balesa, actually now at the session that we are attending right now, which has started at 2 o'clock with the students and the SRC, we've also seen the VC, Dr. Mabizela, also going to the lecture hall. They are discussing those issues that were raised in 2016, as well as the list of names that was also released at that time, looking in terms of how far they've come as an institution to kind of reflect and, discuss further what more needs to be done in order to curb the scourge that's actually, taking over society as a whole, not just Rhodes as an institution. Earlier, when we spoke to the head of communications, he alluded to the fact that in terms of some of the security measures that students had asked for at that time, they have dealt with those issues, and also they have held quite a few public talks and public lectures in terms of dealing with gender-based violence issues as well as rape on campus. But I think if we speak more to the SRC president here, she may be able to tell us a bit more in terms of dating back to when the movement and the protests started, in terms of creating awareness and sensitizing students throughout the institution. How far as an institution have you guys come?
I think this particular SRC, the SRC that we have, given our composition of, I think it's 9 women, I'm not sure, I think we function with a great cognizance of the history that we come from. And I think that cognizance becomes apparent in the sort of programs that we've tried to have as an SRC. We've tried to have consent talks throughout the year. We've tried to ensure that sexual violence is not something that's just spoken about when something happens. And when something did happen last term, that's when I think the changes to campus were made, things like lights being put in where there were no lights, things like broader security visibility, even though we know that our CPU on campus has been trying its utmost best. So in terms of how far we've come from 2016, I think that's a reflection that the student body needs to have, looking at exactly what from the recommendations of the ad hoc committee has been implemented and what needs to be added to those recommendations, and those recommendations that haven't been implemented, finding out why they haven't been implemented. And I think that once we get that report and that understanding of what has actually happened from the suggestions we brought up in 2016, because we understand that some of the things we're looking for affect the finer details of university running and might not actually be communicated to students or might not be evident to the student body. And so that is really why one of the greatest demands that the student body brought forth I think it was yesterday, asking for that report that is very clear about exactly what has been done.
And then during this time, a very sensitive time and heart-aching time for the students and the community at whole of Rhodes University, we've seen the SRC take a stern leadership role in terms of conducting these meetings, reflecting back or reporting back to the students. But this morning we saw a very emotional body of people come together. Tell us a bit about the leadership role that Khensani played, and now we see quite a number of students whom, feel like they've lost hope because they've lost a leader.
I think Khensani was my running mate. We ran together for presidency, and myself and Kuda ended up being the ones who emerged. And I think that speaks to the person who she was, because Khensani was the type of person who, when she enters a room, you cannot help but notice. I remember even when I found out she was running for presidency, I became a bit shaky myself. But it speaks to the role that she played wherever she was, impacting the people who loved her. And I think what really shakes us about Khensani's death, I can speak from my perspective as a female leader, is the fact that, she was so strong. She was someone who came into our offices, often gave us advice, and one would never think that someone with the strength that Khensani had would resort or find herself in a position where she feels the only way out is suicide. And I think that speaks to a particular culture we need to build as a student body, taking care of one another, looking after each other. I mean, this is the university where leaders learn, and so we need to take care and find ways and teach each other how to look after our leaders.
And then just finally, in terms of the debates and sessions that have been held, I understand Rhodes throughout this year has been very diligent in terms of trying to address this issue of gender-based violence and as well as rape on campus. Do you feel like these initiatives are actually making a change, even if it's a small change that might lead to a bigger picture?
Okay, I don't know if I can comment on the diligence, but I think for me, rape and rape culture is a societal problem, and what little change we make is really a drop in the ocean, because at the end of the day, students do not live here. They go back to homes, they go back to the places they come from, and that's where, you know, even when you unlearn in university, you go back to your home and you relearn certain traits and you relearn certain behaviors that are normalized in our society. And so I think that there's a danger in sort of isolating rape culture and making it a Rhodes University thing. Is there a difference? Since 2016, I can definitely say that amongst the student body, there's a broader and a greater awareness of rape culture, a greater, you know, even in our social spaces, rape is something we speak about now, which before 2016, that was not the case. But I think that we are really dealing with a huge societal problem, and Rhodes is just a microcosm of that society.
Thank you so much for your time. Well, Palesa, obviously students still feeling very emotional and heart aching in terms of the loss of one of their own, but I think also celebrating the life of a young woman who was a phenomenal leader and who made strides while she was here in terms of ensuring that she was fighting for the rights of not only females but the student body as a whole. And obviously the conversation and the topic needs to be broadened as a societal ill that we all need to deal with, and not just a scourge that is facing universities. But for now, it's back to you guys in studio.
All right, thank you so much there to our reporter Iviwe Poti, live from Rhodes University. We'll be following the proceedings very closely.